In April of 1985, DC released its first ever Crisis event known as A Crisis on Infinite Earths, a series which shows DC's first time dealing with a villain that's destroying the multiverse. Essentially, the Anti-Monitor, one of the many six-dimensional beings, was cursed by a great darkness to obliterate the entire multiverse, whilst also being influenced by his mom to change reality to free her. But after the Anti-Monitor failed, other reality-breaking events would also happen, such as Zero Hour, Infinite Crisis, Final Crisis, Flashpoint, and many others. But of all the threats to the DC universe, this one has to be the most bizarre. Milk is being delivered across all of reality, and the ones doing the delivering is a Milkman variation of the DC Trinity. And the people behind it all, a company named Retconn Corporation. So let's start at the beginning. So Retconn Corporation is a TV company that primarily deals with the comic book universe. They also exist at the highest level of existence, allowing them to control, configure, composite any level of reality, whether it's fictional or not. They can basically make new hyper-realities. One of the many examples of this is when we see them turn a fictional character into reality, who was actually Al, the god of superheroes, the master of any hero, real or not, a beacon of hope and omnipotence. See, Retconn's offices reside high in a place called Final Heaven, and when you get inside of them, you'll see that this corporation has material in everyone in the DC universe, which leads us to our issue, because in virtue of having all this accessibility and knowledge, it grabs the attention of extra-dimensional beings named the Anonymous. These are aliens that exist outside the DC universe watching it on TV, and that's their only form of entertainment, stories from the DC multiverse, which is where Retconn comes in. No matter where you're located, the company's job is to broadcast the most interesting figures to these gods. I mean, it's directly described you are being broadcasted to the most important viewers in all of existence, whilst also being omnipotently televised, as Retconn can make any reality in hopes to satisfy the Anonymous. And they'll wipe out everything, absolutely everything, the entire DC universe, if these guys are not entertained properly. That being said, when the Doom Patrol met Retconn, it was revealed that one of their members, Robot Man, was a fan fiction made real by them, and it was also revealed that the workers for the company wanted to retire, but before doing so, they would make one last reality in hopes an intergalactic retailer would purchase it. A reality that's full of joy, and most importantly, where milk reigns over all. Retconn's method of selling this reality was by making it primarily appealing and impossible to attack. They did this using their own milk, which if you eat, watch, or touch it, they're capable of adjusting your entire narrative. They also had the help of their own Milkman Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman, and the way they came to be, as Retconn explains it, is by directly adjusting Batman and Wonder Woman's character into milk hooligans. But Superman was the only one they couldn't change because he was a direct descendant of the god of superheroes. So since they couldn't configure Kal-El, the one that was rocketed from they had to make an entirely new narrative that was a straight up off-brand copy of Superman. They did this using an Omniblink, a baby that doesn't exist who was made by two people who don't exist. After achieving this non-existent child, they would then inject it with their own made narrative, which in this case would be the off-brand Superman that grew up around Derry and would get manipulated by Retconn to be the main defender of the company. He's basically just an evil version of regular Superman. So Retconn eventually found Lord Mandicon to sell this reshaped estate to, and the Trinity would be doing their own thing to help fuel this narrative, such as Superman going house to house forcing milk down people's throats, and even changing Lobo into a whole new person. It's not until the Doom Patrol ambushed Milkman Man and revealed to the people he infected their true selves by showing all their first appearances in many other comics they appear in. So while Milkman is dealing with the Doom Patrol, Batman is acting as a priest that's manipulating kids into wanting to drink the Retconn milk. And after doing this, he would send them to a milk factory where they get their entire origin rewritten into happiness. And unlike Milkman, since Batman has an original narrative, when Mother Panic showed it to him, he switched back to his original self. Which the same is said for Wonder Woman. She was branded as this milk goddess to show how good Retconn's dairy is, until one of her workers figured out what's really happening, showed her the truth of her story, turning her back into Wonder Woman. With that being said though, characters like Swamp Thing were being alerted by the changes and the current threats to the DC universe. And this was all done by a person named Cave Carson. He was sending out a robotic eyeball to many of the heroes to alert them. And eventually the Doom Patrol, Batman, Swamp Thing, Lobo, and many others would all team up to go after Retconn. Now I do think it's good to mention that when Retconn was going to sell the main DCU, they promised the stories there to be at its cleanest, happiest, and safest it's ever been. So when these characters are fighting back and causing chaos against Retconn in their own offices, well, it actually made Lord Magnicon not want to buy it anymore because the narratives that were promised are now running wild. It came to a point where they told the buyer that they have an ultimate failsafe in case everything gets too much out of hand. And later on, we see that this object is by far one of the most powerful things in the DC universe. But before we get to that, they do try to negotiate a new deal. Earth Prime, which is just another word for the DCU, given to him for free, under the condition that he helps them get rid of the infested stories, the Doom Patrol, Justice League, everything. But that failed due to the fact that he wanted what he was promised, and with that, the deal was done. At this point, Retconn's offices were completely broken into and the members were cornered. And with nothing left to do, Retconn presses their ultimate failsafe, removing everything. High in Final Heaven, creation itself is being deleted. Characters like Milkman Superman are terrified because everything is being wiped off the comic page and nobody can stop it. And as Bruce puts it, this is beyond Barbados, beyond Darkseid, which is very impressive because characters like Barbados caused the multiverse to rumble with the sheer scream and was essentially taking over reality with all his dark army. But I assume this is worse because what this button is doing is for sure erasing the multiverse whilst no one being able to stop it. But it could be restarted. So Flix Mentallo is one of the many meta-human characters in DC, and he's able to manipulate reality by flexing. Now Batman picks this up, and together they think of the idea of everybody flexing so hard they hit the restart button on reality. So yes, all of it will get deleted, but eventually everything will come back. So they flexed very hard until eventually creation restarted itself. From directly inside the void, existence is born anew and is how all things should be.